We are coming to you from the city beautiful Chicago, Illinois, where this afternoon WGN Sports presents White Sox baseball. It's Jose Abreu, Melky Cabrera, Avisail Garcia and the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Miguel Cabrera, Ian Kinsler, and the Detroit Tigers. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Ken Harrelson with Steve Stone as we get set to bring you the finale of this three-game set, and it will be the rubber match. Sox won the opener by a score of 4-3 in 11 innings. Very exciting ball game. Then last night they won it 7-1. So the last couple of games, though, Alexei Ramirez in that two-hole was okay.
He's been very good in the two-hole, and first of all, welcome back. It's been a long time. You look terrific.
Thanks.
I'm kind of surprised that it looks as good as it looks.
Yeah, I've been in fights that worse. It came out worse than this.
Alexei Ramirez had 2 games in the 2 spot, and he was hitting .500. Robin Ventura tried to shake up the lineup to get some offense, and he certainly got some from Alexei. So after taking to the 2 spot very well, we've got another new 2-hitter today, and it's the reemergence of Melky Cabrera in that 2 spot. But 4 for 8 with a run driven in, a run scored, 1 walk, and Alexei seemed comfortable at the top. He's also our best base stealer, so he got reinvigorated with that spot in the lineup, and we're going to see more of it before too long.
And the ups and downs of Jeff Samardzija.
Unfortunately, Jeff Samardzija's had 3 real bad ball games, but the oddity is they've all been on the road. He had a disaster last time out against Texas. But overall, 2 of the last 3 games have been very good. He pitches exceptionally well at U.S. Cellular Field, and we're hoping for more of the same as Sox try to take 2 or 3 from Texas, and as you can see, back on May 22nd, he threw very well against Minnesota. Then followed it up with a brilliant game against Toronto. On the road last time, not so much. He lost command of his slider, he didn't have that good splitter, and he didn't have command of the strike zone. He's got to contend with the bottom part of the order, who last night was all everything. McCann, 3 for 5. Josh Wilson, who's not in the game today, 4 for 5. Jose Iglesias was 3 for 5. So at the bottom of the order, they got it done. And David Price was a little too much for our boys yesterday, hoping for a better result against Alfredo Simon.
All right, sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
Well, the White Sox and Tigers are just a few minutes away here on a rainy afternoon in Chicago. Let's hope the rain holds off and get this game in. The White Sox, of course, have not had a great start this season, no question about it. Fortunately, the division has not shaped up the way it's figured to be when the year began. Detroit just had that 8-game losing streak. Kansas City's not running away. So before the game, I asked Robin Ventura to assess the American League Central.
Our division's tough. I mean, you know, you would look at it and think from the outside going into it, people look at Kansas City and Detroit, but you're looking at Cleveland, the rotation that they have, the way Minnesota's playing. It's not just us within our division. We're going outside the division and playing well too. So it's a tough division. You're going to have to play well every night, or a losing streak can't happen.
All right, Hawk and Steve coming up. White Sox baseball here on WGN after a break.
Our home for the most live sports, and welcome back to U.S. Cellular Field. The rains have gone for the moment. It's a bright sunny day, a beautiful day here in Chicago. And let's take a look at how Brad Ausmus is going to line up his Tigers for Game 3 of this 3-game series. Anthony goes to lead it off, then it's Ian Kinsler at second, Miguel Cabrera, who homered yesterday, and he's been red hot lately. Yoenis Cespedes, Tyler Collins, J.D. Martinez, Nick Castellanos, James McCann, and Jose Iglesias rounded out. The defense and how they're going to line up behind Jeff Samardzija, Melky Cabrera, Adam Eaton, and Avisail Garcia comprise the outfield. And Connor Gillespie back at third base, along with Ramirez, Sanchez, and LaRoche in the infield. Giovanni Soto gets a nod behind the plate, and Jeff Samardzija on the hill. He's 4-3, his ERA, .468 on for his 12th start. Opponent's hitting a rather high .286 against him. He gets the ball around the plate, but he's been wild in the strike zone, and that's hurt him. The umpires for the game this afternoon: Chris Guccione behind the plate, Jeff Nelson is at first, Laz Diaz is at second, and Corey Blazer is at third. So as the Sox try to take the series from these Tigers, they're throwing the ball around the infield. And it's time to welcome back my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson, from his little procedure that he had done. Little because it's easy for me to say it was done on him. But he looks terrific, and we're glad to have you back. And we're ready to play baseball.
Thank you very much, Steve. And, of course, once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here over WGN Sports. As Anthony Ghost is going to look at the first pitch from the big right-hander, Jeff Samardzija. And that's a good slider. 0-1 the count. Ghost comes in hitting at .296, a homer. He's driven in 11. He's been in the funk lately. But make no mistake about it, this guy is and can be a game changer. 0-2 the count. Tigers come in hitting at .271 as a club with a 3.85 team ERA. This is the 9th game of the season between these two teams. In the first 8 they have split them. He gone.
That didn't take long. Goes 2 sliders low and in, and then wipes him out.
So here's Kinsler. He in at 268. A homer. He's driven in 23. He is 3 for 10 in the series and 2 for 8 lifetime against the margin. There's first pitch strike. That one at 94. And here at the ballpark, 330 down the left field line, 335 down the right field line, 375 in the gaps, and 400 straightaway center. Oh, and 2 the count. The Sox, of course, coming off what possibly is going to be the toughest road trip they will have all year. An 11 gamer. 11 days and coming back 5 and 6. And the way you judge a road trip is, would you have taken 5 and 6 before you started?
Absolutely.
Dadgum right. That ball into right field. Avi got the track. 2 down.
That's 6 pitches all in the strike zone, and not surprising for Jeff Samardzija, because in the last month he's thrown just about 71% strikes. The problem has been that the strikes have been too good. But today, it looks like he feels pretty good about his stuff, and he's throwing the fastball where he wants to, and that's one of his keys.
Here's one of the great hitters this game has ever seen, Miguel Cabrera. Hitting at 325, 12 homers, 38 knocked in. And just a joy from a baseball perspective, just a joy to watch play this game. Plays hard, has fun. And the count evens at 1.
That's the first pitch that Jeff has thrown out of the strike zone. As you take a look at the last 23. 6 home runs, 17 driven in. So personally, he doesn't seem to miss Victor Martinez, but I know the team does.
Well, he's going to, I don't care. Whoops. Whoops. He's going to hit. It's just according to how much he's going to hit. And how much he's going to hit is determined on who's going to hit behind him. And when he's got Victor Martinez going to hit behind him, if you notice earlier in the year, he was up around that 380 mark.
And as good as Cespedes is, he just doesn't strike fear in the hearts of right-handed pitchers like Victor Martinez does. That's when Victor's knee was good and he could hit from the left side very well. Because the knee was bad this year, he was hitting well over 400 as a right-hand hitter and in the mid 100s as a left-hand hitter.
Just got a piece of that breaking ball.
But still in all, with the game on the line, you're not going to pitch to this man. You're going to take your chances with Cespedes, who's up next.
That's the deepest I've ever seen Avi playing in right field.
He's almost on the track.
I mean, that he usually, if anything, plays shallower than any right fielder right there.
Whew. It could very well be with the wind direction blowing in and swirling around out there like it did last night. Maybe the ball's carrying that way. But there's no doubt if the ball goes over his head, it's out of the park. It looks like a no double set early in the game.
Well, another situation issue, I should say, with Avi is also his knee. It's a lot easier for him to come in than it is for him to go sideways or back. Long look in now, a little gamesmanship going on. That is high and going into the seats for a souvenir. Yeah, Cabrera We have seen him play on some legs that I don't know any other player that would have played on.
No, he loves to be in that lineup. You pretty much have to have a tractor to get him out of the lineup because he knows how important he is to his team.
Two out, 2 balls, 2 strikes here in the top of the first if you're just tuning in. Big gap out there in right center. And a full count. He's the poster child, as the big hurt Frank Thomas was for years here. And the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. He'll probably have more 2-0, 3-1, and 3-2 counts than any hitter in this league. That means he's seeing more pitches. And that's ball 4. And the more pitches you see, the more comfortable you become, the more dangerous you become.
Well, there's no doubt that Miguel is going to see more pitches than most because he's more dangerous than most. And nobody wants to do anything to leave something in the middle of the plate against him. Last year, despite being banged up, played in 159 games. The year before, 148 games. Other than that, 2 years in a row, 161 and 161. So it is difficult to stop him from playing.
So here's Cespedes at 292, 7 homers and 28 driven in. 1 for 6 against Jeff, and that 1 homer. 1 for 6. Well, I've only seen one manager that just took the situation completely out of the pitcher's hands. That was Alvin Dark with Sam McDowell. Big Frank Howard, 6'7", 300 pounds, hit the ball probably further than anybody in the history of the game. And the count 2-0. And the harder Sam, which Sam threw 100 or a little better, the harder he threw it, the further Big Frank hit it. So we're having a meeting going over the guys before the game. Alvin says, Sam, don't worry about a thing today. We're going to put him on 4 times. That's out of play. First inning. 2 out, nobody on. Alvin puts up 4 fingers and they walk it. Next time up, puts up 4 fingers and they walk it. Next time, 4 fingers and they walk him again.
That's surprising. There's just certain guys that have your number, and there's no reason to pitch to him and let him beat you.
Count evens at 2.
Cespedes, in the last year of a 4-year deal, he signed with Oakland. He went to Boston. Then he moved here in the offseason. They've got a couple of free agents that they would dearly love to sign. The question is how much. One pitched yesterday, and David Price. They would love to keep him, but he's going to get a bundle. Cespedes is the other one.
Now that's another area. The culture of the game has changed. If that same movement had been 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you'd say, oh, something's wrong with this guy. Today, that's not necessarily the case because today, those are financial movements.
Well, there's no doubt that, number one, before he walks out the door himself, he'd like to get something for him. And the contract, the first one was a good one, $9 million a year for 4 years. With the way he can produce in this day and age, that's not bad.
And there's a base hit. He saw a lot of pitches, and so now they had 2 out, nobody on. Now there's 2 out, 2 on.
He takes this through the left side. This ball is down, and Cespedes, who is a 5-tool player, I mean, there's really nothing that he can't do. And Jeff in some trouble here in the first. An inning where Jeff has had some problems.
Here's Tyler Collins. Oh, no. And here's the throw to the plate. Not in time, and it's 1-0. Boy, they have had last night Wilson, and the night before Wilson. Some soft base hits to fall in from guys at the bottom of the order. But
it's RBI number 5 for Collins, and last year he showed that he could hit off the bench, which is something that young left-handers, if they show it to their manager, they'll get a chance to play. So he is getting his opportunity and puts the Tigers on top.
So here is Martinez. And even if he had retired, Collins, is still a good inning for the Tigers, as this will be pitch number 25.
This Tiger team last year stole 106 bases. In 2013, they stole 35. This year, they're on a pace to eclipse what they did last year. So the difference in the Tiger team over the last few years is that now they can run. They can run up and down the order.
Line shot right at him, so that's a hang with him for JD. Meanwhile, they pick up a run after having a play as the Tigers won, and the good guys coming to bat.
Off, and it's Melky Cabrera, Jose Abreu, the DH, Adam LaRoche, Avisail Garcia, Alexei Ramirez, Connor Gillespie, Giovanni Soto behind the plate, and Carlos Sanchez playing second and hitting ninth. The defense, and out that lineup behind Alfredo Simon, it's Collins, Gose, and Martinez left to right, with Castellanos, Iglesias, Kinsler, and Cabrera in the infield, James McCann behind the plate, and Alfredo Simon, the big man. 5-3, his ERA below 3 on for his 11th start. He's going to throw a lot of splitters. That's really been his wipeout pitch lately, but last time out, he walked 5 guys. So if the Sox are patient, maybe he'll carry over that wildness into this start.
And before we show you our picks to click you at home, select yours, as there's first pitch strike to Adam Eaton. Adam comes in at 233, 3 homers, 10 knocked in. Oh, and 2. Now, Castellanos still even with the bag at third.
Castellanos has had a real tough go defensively. He's back in the lineup today. I think Sox pitchers, although Castellanos was the DH when he wasn't playing third, they're happy not to see Josh Wilson, who's been with a whole lot of clubs, but he's had a good series offensively.
Anthony Ghost. One out, and here's Melky.
It's a tale of two sides for Melky because as a right-hand hitter, he's really struggled. Hitting .080 left-hand hitter, hitting .275, which isn't too bad, and he's re-elevated back into the 2 spot again.
Takes ball 1. Melky has faced Simon 5 times, has 1 hit. And a 2-0 count. Rubber match of this 3-game set. There's a shot. Another one right at him, so it's to hang with him. What new for Cabrera? So with 2 out, let's check out our picks to click. Comanche, our director and the crew. They went with Lexi. Steve's going with Adam LaRoche. And all of the good people out at the Center for Surgery out of Naperville. That great crew out there. We're going to go with Melky. There's a base hit in the center field for Abreu.
Well, the Tigers were able to make it happen with 2 outs and nobody on. It took a walk to Cabrera before the singles by Cespedes and Collins. But this keeps the inning alive. It's low, down the middle, and a rifle shot to center field.
So here is Adam. 244, 7 homers, 23 knocked in. That's off the glove of Cabrera, and everybody's going to be safe.
Gonna go E3. Cabrera most unhappy with himself.
He's usually got some of the surest hands around. That's his first error.
And this ball just bounced up, hit the heel of the glove, and bounded away. And he's always in the race for a Gold Glove at first base, but it's not one of his better efforts. He's homered in this series, and that homer came to right field. The wind is going to take the ball out that way.
Two on, 2 out. There was the 1.
Well, first and second and 2 outs. The Sox have played at least 1 run 14% of the time, with the league average at 22. Tiger pitchers, however, have given up runs in this situation 29% of the time, which is way above league average.
That pitch inside. So 2-1 to count. That's a big pitch in this sequence. Especially when you've been having trouble scoring runs. But regardless of what the situation is, scoring runs or not, you have to be able to take your walks. When you start enlarging that strike zone, you're doing your team a disservice. That ball hit high and deep. Stretch! Stretch! You can put it on the board! Yes! Yes! A lot of difference in 1 and 2 or 2 and 1.
Second home run of the series for Avi, his 6th of the year. He's now driven in 23, and so with 2 outs and nobody on, an error opens the door. And Avi able to take advantage of it as this ball stays up in the zone. Looked like it probably was the splitter. He catches it off the end of the bat, but he's so strong that he got it up, and it went way out.
And that ball hit well into center field, but Ghost will corral it. Meanwhile, 3-run homer by Aviciel, and we lead it 3-1. Three-run homer by Bobby Garcia. And of course, that's another donation to White Sox charities from our beloved Alex Snellius, in loving memory of Ursula. Castellanos takes first pitch strike. He's hitting at 234. 2 for 8 in this series. Oh, and 2 the count.
Certainly helps when you give up a run in the first inning and your boys come back and get you the lead. Jeff Samardzija has been getting better as the innings have moved along in his starts.
Gap out there in left center. He gone.
Sox fans, come out for specialty beer night on Thursday, June 18th. Sample up to 16 different beers and ciders with this $42 ticket package, which includes access to the tasting room from 5:40 to 7:30. And you also get a lower box seat with that ticket. To purchase, visit whitesox.com/specialty.
So here's the catcher, James McCann. Takes low ball 1.
And although they miss Victor Martinez, and they certainly do that, the guy they miss the most, if you talk to the Tiger people, is Alex Avila, who's got a knee problem. No expected return at this point, but he handles the staff exceptionally well.
That's an area that is never talked about enough. You can talk about a catcher not hitting that well. You can talk about a catcher maybe not being that good defensively behind the plate. But when you get a catcher that calls a great game and handles that staff and knows the responsibilities of catching, then you got yourself a jewel. And that's what Alex Avila is.
There is a look at Alex. He's been calling his own game for quite some time.
High pop up. Almost in the batter's box. 2 down.
Gio had to avoid the mask. Had he picked up where the ball was, he would have flipped the mask a little farther away. As it was, he had to step on over it. But he made the catch. See where the mask is. You want to make sure you flip that thing away when the ball goes straight up, because the last thing you want to do is trip over it. But they get the out. Back to Avila. When he was at the University of Alabama, he was the only catcher that his coach would allow to call his own game. So he's been doing it for a while. His trust in him was just implicit.
Well, that's unheard of in high school and college.
No, and that's one of the reasons why catchers come to major leagues now. They have so many problems calling their own game and controlling their pitching staff because they never had to do it.
All right, how many? You got 30 teams. How many catchers do you think call their own game?
Not a lot. A couple of veteran guys, perhaps. Guy who's been with a manager for a long time, if the manager gets to trust him, but more times than not, they're going to get more than a few signals from the bench.
I would say less than 5. Iglesias, he is a good player. Wow. This young man is wowing everybody with his leather.
And a little surprised at that .338 batting average, but in this series, he's been magnificent at shortstop.
The 1-2 pitch.
What I like about Iglesias is he makes his own hop on each and every play, gets rid of the ball quickly, will throw it from any angle you want him to throw it, and throws it right on the money at first base. But the quickness in which he delivers it sets him apart.
I'll be very short out there in right field. Well, that was one reason A.J. Pierzynski was so valuable to Minnesota when he was there, to us when he was here for those 7 years. We won a world championship with him. He called the best game in this league. I don't know about the National League, but he called the best game in this league. And he did not do anything to take his pitcher. There's a bouncer. Gillespie's got him. And a nice 1-2-3 inning. We go to the bottom of the second. It's still 3-1 Sox.
He might be today's White Sox fan of the game. White Sox fan photo of the game is brought to you by Beggar's Pizza, now with 22 locations. BeggarsPizza.com. Beggar's Pizza. They lay it on thick.
So here's Gillespie. Connor at 254, a couple of homers. He's driven in 12.
You know, but getting back to the catcher, his responsibilities. AJ would get our guys in a rhythm. And if you recall, that pitching staff we had back there when we won the World Championship was just awesome. And one reason being Pierzynski calling the game, getting him in a rhythm, and keeping him in a rhythm.
Well, that's one of the most important aspects of pitching. Is get the ball back and get to work.
Well, the great Gabby Hartnett, Hall of Famer, said that's the first responsibility of a catcher is find his rhythm. It might take you a couple innings, but sometimes you'll get it in the first inning. Find his rhythm, get him in him, and keep him in it. I know one thing, when we played Minnesota all those years, when we were butting heads with them, the most valuable player on that team was Pierzynski because he pitched our guys exactly the way they were supposed to be pitched.
Here's Soto. Gio hitting at 205, a couple of homers. He's driven in 9. Takes up high ball 1. Now feel around to the right. Gap out there in left center if he can find it.
Gio for sure is going to get a start when Samardzija goes to the mound. Pitched to Gio with the Cubs. He pitched to him with the Oakland Ball Club, and now he's pitching to him here.
I think the best catcher, I have to say 2 in the last, I'm going to say 25 to 30 years, maybe 40, that I've seen do that. It was noticeable from up here in the booth that got their pitchers in rhythm and kept it there regardless. 2 guys, Rick Dempsey and Thurman Munson.
The irony is today,
and you pitched to both of them.
The irony is Thurman Munson's birthday today. Would have been 68 years old if not for the plane crash that took his life. Probably was slated to get to the Hall of Fame. He was that good. He was the Yankee captain. And he was the man you didn't want to face in the clutch because you couldn't strike him out.
7th, 8th, and 9th inning, he was the guy on that team that you're worried about. He and Pinella, not so much Reggie. As they ring him up, Jeff Nelson.
Yeah, they appealed to first base, and Nelson says yes, he did. Gio thought he had checked his swing.
I remember that day that Thurman, I was out South Bend. It was an off day for us. I was out South Bend Country Club by myself. Had my radio on, and they came over and announced that he had been killed in a plane crash. So here's Sanchez. Takes ball 1. And I did not like Thurman personally. We had a couple of run-ins.
He was irascible.
Well, but I loved him as a baseball player. I loved him as a competitor. You had to. You know, you don't have to have dinner with somebody every night. But if you respect him the way I respected Thurman Munson. It's like Torrey Hunter. I couldn't stand Torrey Hunter when he was in that Minnesota uniform because he was always beating us.
Now being back in it again, he's pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They added him for stability, and he certainly has given that club, that surprising Minnesota club, a lot of leadership. They're in first place. They have a game lead over Kansas City coming into play today.
There's a strike. Well, when I heard that Thurman had been killed, I actually had tears in my eyes. And the funny thing about it too also was Had not it been for Anita Piniella, Lou would have been on that plane. Thurman wanted him to go on it with him, and Anita would not let Lou go. There is ball 4.
First walk of the game by Simon. Simon, who originally was signed as a non-drafted free agent by Philadelphia. He pitched under the name of Carlos Cabrera, 2001 to 2004. Same way that Fausto Carmona now pitches under the name of Hernandez, and he pitches for Houston. Fausto was awfully good with the Cleveland Indians. Hernandez has not been that good with Houston.
That ball hit left field. That's a fair ball, and that's going to score Sanchez. As Cespedes made the dive, couldn't come up. Collins, I should say. And it's a 4-1 ball game.
Our Mazda replay, and even though Collins is over toward the line, he can't get there on this ball that slices away from him. He makes the effort. He comes up short. Then as it rattles around, Adam will drive in his 11th run of the year. Runs it into a triple.
That's his 4th 3-bagger. Here's Melky. He just absolute squared one up right to Anthony Gose in center field. A bullet. And that hits him on the fist, pops him up into short center field. Gose coming on. And look at Iglesias over the shoulder catch. Mercy. But we pick up a run, and it is 4-1 Sox. Four-1 Sox here in the top of the 3rd inning. Top of the order for the Tigers. Gose struck out, leading off the ball game. Take strike 1. Gillespie on the grass at 3rd. 1-1.
They got Ghost from Toronto in exchange for Devin Travis, and Travis, a good-looking second baseman, got off to a great start with the Blue Jays, then got banged up somewhat. They got Ghost to give them a platoon system in center field, along with Rajay Davis, Anthony Ghost, the left-handed hitting counterpart of the two. Gives them two speed burners who can really go get him in the very spacious outfield of Comerica Park.
How's that back? You know, I want to take a second here to, first of all, we all know what a great medical team Sox have, headed up by Dr. Chuck. Bush Joseph is there. Like I say, he's got him. And you got Herm Schneider, Brian Ball. And also, since I've been here, I've had now 8 surgeries done on my eyes. And I want to thank those guys for absolutely being wonderful. Headed up by Dr. David Orth, who is one of the greatest retinal surgeons the country's ever seen, and his staff. There is a strike. Tracy Williams, Kirk Paco, Jim Noth, and the doctor who just did my ptosis. Lid lifting, so to speak, Dr. Amjad Ahmad. We call him AJ, or the lid master, because that's in the right field. And that is out number 2. I've had those 8 surgeries, and I've never had to take an aspirin.
This one looks remarkable when you consider you just had it done on Thursday.
Well, it's just, again, if you get a good doctor, and that's one thing people have to understand today, the medicine, especially with the eyes, the medical profession today with these doctors, they think about having some eye surgery and they just cringe because of the anticipation of the angst of pain, so to speak. Well, there's no pain. There's no pain. To have 8 surgeries like I've had and not even had to take an aspirin. Here's Cabrera.
First time up, the only walk of the game by Jeff Samardzija was handed to Cabrera, later scoring on the single by Collins.
All 4 of our runs have come with 2 out, nobody on. He got away with one right there. That ball had a good chance of being in those seats in right field.
He got the middle of the plate. It was outer third, right around thigh high. Later in the game, in a key situation, a run scoring situation, Cabrera's not going to miss that one.
He go. Gas at 95. And that is 7 in a row retired by Samardzija.
Jeff Vukovich, your local Nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 37 years. To visit the nation, visit jeffvuk.com, because Nationwide is on your side.
First pitch to Abreu. He started off that 3-run first with a 2-out single. Hard 2-out single to center field. Breaking ball. That was just a rolling, high breaking pitch. One and two.
Last year, for the first time, Alfredo Simon was named to the American League All-Star team. He transitioned pretty smoothly from the bullpen to the starting rotation.
There's a shot. Hang with him. 1 out.
The White Sox have dedicated Saturday, June 20th as Father-Daughter Day. All fathers and their daughters are invited to enjoy a day at the ballpark. There will also be an opportunity to participate in a pregame parade. To purchase specially priced tickets, visit whitesox.com/dad. For those of you who didn't see it, Adam LaRoche had a dramatic 9th inning 2-out home run to take the opener of this series into extra innings, a game the Sox won in 11. And Adam, getting a chance to play most every day at first base defensively, is hitting the ball a whole lot better. They do have this severe shift on him, and Cabrera is deep and right on the line at first base.
And he was the play, as I mentioned, on the error by Cabrera, and that's out of play. If you miss that, poof. See, here's where we caught a break. 2 reasons. First of all, he's holding him on, Abreu, who's not going to be running, instead of playing behind him. And the next thing is he's got good hands, and that ball just hopped up a little bit and hit him in the heel. But if he's back behind him, chances are he's going to make that play. And that so far is the big play in this game. Here's the 1-2.
Tried to throw that splitter away, and Adam was able to just barely get a piece of it and stay alive.
Watch out.
That one went flying, and hopefully everyone is okay. And apparently everyone is okay. He fooled him on the splitter, and the bat went flying.
So here's Avi, and here's what he did with Abreu and LaRoche aboard.
A forward home run replay, a towering fly ball to left center field that just kept on going. His 6th of the year. his second in this series.
Good rip underneath it. Two out, 1-1 to count. 4-3-0 for us, 1-2 and a huge one for them. That one hung too high.
Simon last year went 15-10 with Cincinnati. 3.44 ERA, not bad for a guy who hadn't started for 2 years previous to that.
Simon 6'6", 265.
He's a big man who started his career way back in the year 2000 with those Phillies we talked about. So he's been around a long time. Finally surfacing the major leagues in 2008 with Baltimore. Spending parts of 4 seasons with them before going over to Cincinnati, where he spent 3 years. And now here with the Tigers, and there's a look at his career numbers. Not all that many starts, so obviously he doesn't have that many decisions.
Full count.
Lexi on the on-deck circle. He hit that ball pretty hard in the first inning. Only to see Ghost run under it.
And the payoff pitch. And that's ball 4. So the second walk issued by Simon, who walked Sanchez with 2 out, nobody on last inning, and scored on the triple by Adam Eaton. A little different situation right here with Ivy than Abreu back in that first. Ivy is a threat to run. Abreu was not. Takes that strike right there at 94. It's just an easy 94.
At one point, Simon was the closer for the Orioles, chalking up 17 saves back in 2010. But they decided that he would be better served in their rotation. Tried that the next year. Didn't work out quite as well as they would have thought.
Softly hit. Watch out, Avi. So that'll retire the side, and we're into the 4th, leading by 3. Tigers scored 1 in the first. Sox scored 3 on that 3-run homer by Garcia in the first. Added another in the second. So far, Detroit, Cespedes, Collins, and Martinez. Cespedes saw a lot of pitches his first at bat. Hit the last one hard in the hole between third and short for a base hit. That evens the count at 1.
Give you an idea about Cespedes and why he doesn't strike fear in the hearts of pitchers as Victor Martinez did when he was hitting. Over the last month, he's hitting just on base percentage of 167 with runners in scoring position.
He got a good pitch to hit right there. He was all over it, and fortunately just underneath it. Ooh, Lord.
That fastball up in his eyes. Couldn't get it done.
That's souvenir right side.
That on base percentage of 167 with runners in scoring position. Contrast to a league average of 342. So although he is a good hitter and although he is a pretty good run producer, it just doesn't give him what a healthy Victor Martinez did.
Not many guys can.
Nope, they got to make the most of it.
Here you go. Victor Martinez, one of the best clutch hitters in the last 15 years in this league.
And this ball just keeps going away. So put a little cut on it. Kept it away from Cespedes, who expanded his zone and went down on strikes. And that was the 4th strikeout to go with just the 1 lone walk that coming to Cabrera with 2 outs, nobody on in the first, which led to the lone Tiger run.
Victor Martinez, one of Jim Thome's all-time favorite teammates.
He's been a leader in the locker room since he came up with the Cleveland Indians and has been wherever he's gone after that. A leader certainly by example.
0-2 the count to Tyler Collins, who had a little duck snort single to knock in Cabrera in the first inning. Out and around it.
Collins is not going to be a big power hitter if he's allowed to play more in the major leagues, but he is going to hit around 20 home runs. And left-hand hitters at Comerica Park, that's a good thing.
The ball's hit hard. Hang up for him. Nope. Falls down. So with 1 out, he's going to get into third with a triple.
Sinking line drive, and then Avi's feet went out from under him. It has to be a little wet with all the morning rain we've had. So he can't plant as he wanted to, and also he's had that bad knee. Comes in, and there you see trip. Cannot flag it down. And Collins runs it into a 3-base hit.
So here's J.D. Martinez. He hit a rocket right to Alexei at short to end the first inning.
Tiger bullpen up and going.
And there's a base hit. So that is going to make it a 4-2 ball game.
RBI number 24 for J.D. Martinez. J.D. had a big year last year. And he has got to take that next step forward. Because with this lineup, and it's a much better lineup than they've been producing. In fact, it was somewhat surprising they lost 8 in a row and couldn't get any offense because they're second in the league in hitting.
Every team's going to go through some funks.
Tigers seem like a team that when they get it rolling, they'll pummel you. And outside of that, they have way too many games where they score 2 runs or less.
High into short right field. Ivy. Gonna get him, give it first. He lost the count. And that is a double play, so we will take it. And that'll retire the side, but they pick up point and we lead it 4-2.
J.D. Martinez decided that he would forget about the outs, which is a good thing for our boys. Because then after making this very easy catch, just a little routine flip to first base, and it's double play and out of the inning.
Well, that's symptomatic of losing 8 out of 9.
It's certainly something that Brett Ausmus, who was a very smart player in his time, had a hard time relating to.
That pitch fouled away by Gillespie. Connor hit a little soft ground ball to Cabrera at first. To the count.
Tyler that time on that swing was going to the left side because they've got the same shift on him as they have on LaRoche. And he accommodated them by grounding to Cabrera last time up.
Well, if you're going to go to the opposite field, in this case being a left-handed hitter, you're much better off, and you give yourself a much better chance to do that by backing off the plate a little bit.
You're not going to find too many hitters making adjustments in the box.
And it just absolutely befuddles me. I mean, it really does. And you probably got less than 5% of the catchers who can catch it. try to do that on a couple of guys that I mentioned earlier, Rick Dempsey. They would pick that up in a heartbeat.
That's the last thing that Carlton Fisk did every time was look at the hitter's feet. See if he's changed where he was standing.
Stay fair. It won't.
That's what a pitcher should notice, and he doesn't. Because in your mind's eye, you know what everybody looks like at bat. And you get a pretty good idea when a guy either moves closer to the plate or moves back off the plate. And he can pretty much tell you what he's looking for by doing one or the other. But in these days, you just stand out there and 99% of the guys are going to stand in the same spot.
The 1-2. Said hard but foul. Well, I'm going to tell you something. That the Hall of Fame shortstop and former president of the American League, Joe Cronin, told me, and that was Hall of Fame is filled with guys who moved around in that box.
And also pitchers who move around on the pitching rubber, they don't do that much anymore either.
No, and I'll tell you what, when you get a guy out there who does move around that thing, all of a sudden it takes you out of your thought process a little bit. It makes you, what's going on? What's going on?
Where's he going to go with this one if he moves?
Sif's going to get him. So Kinsler throws him out.
Sox fans, the first 20,000 fans on Saturday, June 20th, will receive a White Sox baseball cap presented by the Private Bank. The Private Bank, we solve for X. Well, you got me on that one. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com/promos.
4-2 Sox here in the bottom of the fourth inning as Soto struck out on a check swing. Yeah, you do that on Rick Dempsey or Thurman Munson or Bill Freehand, they'd pick it up that quick. Turn him around right here. Zone him in, reel him in, and light him up, Gio. That ball hit hard, and it's going to be over the head. And that's going to be a ground rule double. So he did indeed turn him around. Fourth two-bagger for Soto.
Gio crushes this ball. It's a fastball. It's out away. And it one hops out of the yard.
So here's Sanchez. Carlos walked and scored back in the second.
With that double, the Sox hitters as a team have hit for the cycle.
Had him way out in front, off balance. Boy, this would be absolutely a beauty to pick up right here. Yeah, he's going to have to cinch it up and hunker down right now. 0-2 the count.
Guccione is calling the high strike this afternoon. Outfield around to the left, gap out there in right center.
J.D. Martinez way off the line in right field. Just got a piece of it.
With a runner at second and only one out, the Sox have scored at least one 34% of the time. Detroit's pitchers have given up one, right around the league average.
Ups. Bad base running play.
I think Joe McEwing might want a review of this one. There is no doubt that the ball beat him. The only question is, did the leg get in before the tag? And they're taking a look at it. I think it might have tagged him on that right knee before the foot got there, and that was from that particular replay. And he did. He got him. They always tell you if the ball's hit in front of you, you just can't go, especially with a catcher.
Adam has gone out to center and triples. Picked up his fourth free bagger.
Temperature's actually gone up 5 degrees since game time. We started at 75. Now it is a nice, comfortable 80 degrees with some pretty steady windage.
Just a decent lead by Carlos. There he goes. He gone. So we run ourselves out of an inning, and we're into the fifth.
And click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. The Sox Game Zone is powered by Robert Morris University, Illinois, offering over 55 athletic teams, more than any other university in the state. For more information on RMU, visit robertmorris.edu.
Fifth inning. Here in the finale of this three-game set, and starting tomorrow, make your plans to be with us here at the ballpark. First of three. First of 3.
Against the Houstons. The first place Houstons.
Where we took 2 out of 3 down there. But then after that, we'll be off to Tampa Bay for 3 and Pittsburgh for 2.
And Houston has seen their lead shrink to 3.5 games as the Texas Rangers, winners of 3 in a row and 7 of their last 10, are starting to hit the baseball. And before it's all said and done, the Angels and the Rangers are going to be right there with the Houstons. And as you can see, Houston, that had a very comfortable lead at one point, has gotten to the point now where they're not exactly looking over their shoulder, but they should be, because they've lost 3 in a row and 4 of their last 6.
Well, I think I'm going to stick with my spring training prediction in that division and stay with the Halos.
Halos are a pretty good team, a whole lot better than they've been playing. They've lost 4 in a row recently. But I think the surprise in that division, outside the fact that Houston is winning, which is somewhat surprising, is the fact that Seattle is not. Seattle 8.5 games back with a pretty good pitching staff, although Iwakuma's on the disabled list. They just picked up Wellington Castillo, and then they moved him along.
That should be a can of corn out into left field. Melky is there.
Kind of surprised Seattle isn't playing better. I believe they will. You know, Jack Zurincic, their general manager, believes they will, but they're 25 and 31. They got a whole lot of offense in that lineup, and they're not getting it done on a daily basis.
Well, I think the 3 biggest surprises to me in baseball this year are Houston, Minnesota, and the White Sox. First pitch strike to Iglesias. One will send out a big White Sox hello and get well soon and come on out to the ballpark to Allison Bachman. She'll be covering for the next couple of weeks. Lifelong Sox fan. So Allison, hope you're feeling better soon, honey. And that's with a lot of love from Paul and Stacy, your parents, and all of us here with the White Sox. The 0-2.
Had him well out in front of it, but he was able to stay alive.
Gap out there in right center. There you go.
Strikeout number 5. That's the splitter, and when he gets ahead of hitters, he can use that. It's his wipeout pitch, and he wiped out Iglesias.
So here's Ghost. He struck out leading off the ball game, and he also has grounded to short. That ball hit into left field, right at it. So a quick 1-2-3 inning. Halfway home, we lead at 4-2. Guys here in the bottom of the 5th, and time to get some more business done. It'll be the top of the order: Eaton, Cabrera, and Abreu.
Certainly want to get that done against this Tiger lineup that can produce, when they're clicking, a lot of runs. They have not hit near as many home runs as they're used to hitting, but they do have some speed.
Fakes the bunt, just looks at that pitch nicely. 1-0. Adams going out to center and then had a triple right down the left field line that Tyler Collins did a full layout on, could not get it, and that knocked in Sanchez, who had walked. Watch out. Turns and burns, and the count 1-1.
Some good news out of Boston. Tanya Carpenter, that fan who suffered very serious injuries when struck by a broken bat during the Friday night game, is recovering and expected to survive. They were life-threatening injuries, so send out best wishes to her.
There's a shot down into the corner. So here he goes, and now he will pull it up at second with a leadoff double. Don't let that little man get heated up.
He's been swinging the bat a whole lot better, and as one of the table setters at the top, if he gets it going, those guys in the middle are going to drive in a lot more runs. And Adam now with a triple and a double. And because he's hit his lifetime high in home runs, you'd expect a few more forthcoming. One today would be nice.
So here's Melky, a line shot, hard bullet right at Ghost in center field, and then he popped up to short. He's 0 for 2. But he's got a job to do right here. Takes it right there, going to 94.
Last time up, Simon was able to get the fastball in on his hands, and he popped it up. McCann wanted it inside. Simon liked the call. He just didn't like the location. So now they talk it over. Let's see the resolution of that particular conference.
Can't get the job done.
And that was the conference. McCann wanted the fastball inside. Simon wanted it away. McCann won out through the fastball inside, and he popped it up again. June 17th is NIU night at U.S. Cellular Field. Purchase specially priced tickets and show off your Husky pride as the Sox take on the Pirates. Northern Illinois University, your future, our network. Purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com/NIU.
Abreu can't get it. And we got some big Sox fans hanging poolside in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, listening to our game this afternoon. The Reiber family: Sam, Fidjal, Sammy, Nina, and Evie.
The draft starts tomorrow, and everyone around baseball, their entire front offices, just feverishly working away at their board, trying to figure out who exactly they're looking for. Arizona Diamondbacks have the first pick. They're rumored to a couple of different guys. Dansby Swanson, a shortstop from Vanderbilt, But the guy that I really like in the draft, and maybe he'll slide, is Tyler Stevenson, a high school catcher, 6'4", 210, out of Kennesaw Mountain High School in Georgia. A lot of people think that Tony La Russa and his guys will jump up and take him and seemingly get him for a bargain over the slot of the #1 player drafted.
Nice pick right there by McCann. Well, I think the most definitive draft in sports is certainly the NBA. The next most definitive draft is the NFL. The biggest crapshoot is baseball.
This one is flip a coin.
Oh, that's it.
Especially this year.
It's just a crapshoot.
Well,
That's it.
When Bryce Harper was coming out, that was #1. He was going to go #1. No drama. This year, it's not like that. This year, you can make a case for any of as many as 10 guys going #1 overall, and then Houston has the #2 and the #5 pick.
Got him. So 2 down after the leadoff double by 8. And here's LaRoche.
So McCann going out to the mound once again to talk with Simon. Brad Ausmus in his second year. And I talked to him about a second-year manager as opposed to a first. And he said the X's and O's aren't the problem. Everybody knows pretty much how to do that, even though he never managed before. But he said it's getting to know your personnel, getting to know them inside and out, and knowing what they can, but more importantly, what they can't do. And he feels he's much better equipped to do that in this his second year.
X's and O's in baseball don't mean anything. We got people sitting in this ballpark, people sitting at home watching this game today on television who can run a game, a lot of them, as well as most major league managers.
No doubt. Knowing when to hit and run, knowing when to bunt.
Exactly. That's not managing anymore. That's been gone a long time. Managing today is getting in a guy's head. So what does that mean? You got to be part psychologist as well. And not a lot of managers are psychologists or part-time psychologists. Some of them are real good. Want to know the count. You got Avi on deck. He just right there. A little bit up for the low ball hitting LaRoche.
I think that probably was a conference. If you're going to go down at all, go down with that splitter and stay out of the zone. But if you're going to throw anything with something on it, keep it letter high.
Well, most guys, when they're going to go down, they want to go down with something that's going to keep on going down. Not a fastball that's going to be straight. Stops that one foul. Don Drysdale used to talk about that a lot. God bless his soul. Hall of Fame right-hander for you youngsters out there who. He was a Dodger pitcher and a great pitcher. In fact, he was a symbol of pitching back in the 60s. Koufax was the best pitcher, but Drysdale was the symbol. He never missed a start. And he used to say, if you don't know a guy or you're trying to get him out in the big spot in the ball game, first pitch, you just throw one down and away. See what he wants to do, how he reacts to it. You watch the hitter, you don't watch the catcher. And then if you get in a spot where you're 2-2, 3-2, you want to throw it right underneath his hands if you're in a quandary whatsoever. But if you can throw one down, make sure it's something that's going to keep going down. Guerra sucks that hard hit to Hopper up, and that'll retire the side. We waste the leadoff double, but we lead it 4-2. Top of the 6th inning. It'll be Kinsler, Cabrera, and Cespedes. Big inning right here for Jeff, who gave up 1 in the 1st and 1 in the 4th. The 1 in the 4th a little bit tainted, but it's up there. That's throwing away ball 1. Kinsler has fouled out to Avi, and he has popped up to Avi.
Kinsler, a tough man to strike out, and a tough guy to get to swing and miss one.
Checks it up, takes a strike, and also in my absence, I want to throw out some kudos to, because I couldn't get all the games. They don't carry some of the games down in South Bend, and I had a chance to see my grandsons play in some games, and I had the radio on. Ed Farmer and Darren Jackson. Very entertaining and very enlightening is this right off the end of the bat, so the leadoff single. Farmio was play-by-play, and DJ was spot on with his analysis. And certainly want to thank Chuck Swirsky for the fine job he did, certainly in the games that I was able to catch. So here's Cabrera, a walk, and he scored. Then he struck out on a good fastball back in the 3rd.
This is the first time he's going to be up with anybody on base. Normally when that happens, it's pretty dangerous. Although this year he's tied for the team lead in grounding into double plays, which is a combination of how hard he hits the ball and the fact that his legs are not 100%. Kinsler 6 out of 7 in stolen bases. This Tiger team 46 and 22 as you look at the line of Jeff Samardzija. Pretty good so far. We talked about the Rangers earlier. They're getting shut out with 1 hit through 6 innings. That's notable because they haven't been shut out in 53 straight games. That's the longest streak in baseball. But Guthrie is doing the honors today, and the Rangers, a hot hitting team lately, not touching him.
This is a real bad one right there in the count 1-2. I believe last time out, Guthrie became one of, if not the only pitcher in Major League history to give up 11 earned runs in the 1st inning.
Jeez.
Or something close to that.
That's a tough one. That doesn't make for a good day.
Okay, you got some time here, boys. Rack him up.
Thank you very much. Nice pitch.
Second double play turn by our guys. 2 out.
Double play number 9. Now Cabrera has a team lead all to himself. And that's been one of the real pleasant things to look at. The double play combinations with Sanchez at second base. Especially with Alexi at shortstop. These two guys are turning double plays that very few people in this league can turn on a daily basis.
Well, I said it the first time we played them, Stoney, and I'll say it again. Cabrera is not swinging the bat the way he can. And he's still hitting at .325 with 12 homers and 30. That just goes to show you how great he is.
I was going to say, it must be nice to be able to struggle along at these lofty numbers.
That's right. I mean, he's just, I don't know if it's something wrong with his legs. I don't know if it's something wrong with something, but his swing is not his swing. That ball hit hard. And it's out of here. It's a 4-3 ball game. Just a line shot by Cespedes.
There is no doubt as things start to heat up, and they're at 82 now, 7 degrees above where the game started. This ballpark is going to get livelier and livelier as Cespedes hits his 8th home run of the year. He's now driven in 29. That's his 2nd hit of the day. And that gets his ball club to within 1. Fastball was right down the middle, and Cespedes with big power to all parts of the ballpark. It's a line drive rocket into the bullpen.
There's the strike. Collins, who has a little soft Ducks North single, knocking in Cabrera, who walked in the first inning. Then in the fourth, he tripled. It should have been a single. Ivy came in, got stuck in between a little bit, slipped. Ball bounced over his head. Went for the triple, and he scored.
Johnny Cueto, whose name is figuring prominently in trade discussions as he's in the final year of his contract with Cincinnati. He beat San Diego today 4-0.
Just a seeing eye single. So Collins having a lot of good luck in this ball game.
Standing there with first base coach Omar Vizquel, one of the greatest to ever play the shortstop position.
JD Martinez, last time up to the rocket in the center field. That ball hit deep in the center. And it is a 5-4 Tiger lead. That little seeing eye single by Collins set it up.
Martinez hit the ball very well last time in the fourth inning, and this time we told you about the lively ballpark. He got it up in the air. I think Adam thought when it left the bat he would have had a shot at it. It just kept on drifting as Martinez hits it awfully hard. He tries to cut this ball away. It is low and away, but not away enough. And just like that, the lead disappears.
Here's Castellanos. He has struck out and hit into a 9-3 double play.
Martinez has been up 3 times and hit the daylights out of the ball 3 times. He lined out to end the first inning on a rocket to Ramirez.
Karams over to Sanchez, who will pick it up. So it'll be a 1-4-3 if you're scoring. Meanwhile, they come up with a 3 spot and they lead it by 1.
Your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu from Subway. Message and data rates may apply. Subway, eat fresh.
Tigers have taken the lead with 3 in the top of the 6th inning. So for us, in our half, it'll be Garcia, Ramirez, and Gillespie. 6'6", 265-pound right-hander Alfredo Simon. He takes first pitch down in the lower part of the zone for a strike.
Early in the ball game, Albuquerque was loosening up as Simon was having some problems, but he hasn't been up since. You'd expect he would be the first man out of the chute, however.
0-2 the count.
Albuquerque is a man of many sliders. He'll throw the occasional fastball, but more times than not, he lives and dies with that slider. Is Simon about ready to deliver pitch number 81?
That's chop foul over by our dugout. And he just did get a piece of that.
And although the Tigers are tied for the lead in offense with Kansas City, their home runs coming into today way down, as are the Sox. Both of these teams have that in common. If they're going to put together long runs, they're going to have to start hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and you would expect that both teams are going to start doing that. So Gene Lamont having a conference with Brad Ausmus.
Got him. 1 out.
Hey, Sox fans, all season long you score with Papa John's Pizza. The day after the Sox score 5 or more runs, you get 50% off your entire online order at papajohns.com with a promo code SOX5 at participating Papa John's locations. Better ingredients, better pizza. Papa John's.
Here's Alexei. He's gone out deep to center and hit into a 6-4. Fielder's choice. That was to end the 3rd inning. Castellanos. 2 down.
That time Castellanos played it very well. They are concerned about his defense. Last year, he had just a tough year. He was a -30 in runs saved. That, unfortunately, the bottom of the barrel in baseball. This year they're hoping for a little bit better out of him, and that time he played it well. He made his own hop, smothered it, and got it across.
So here's Gillespie. He's grounded out twice to the right side. Once softly to Cabrera, and the other time softly to McKenzie. And of course, the Hawks Monday and Wednesday, tomorrow night and Wednesday night, continue their quest for the Cup. In all those games, the Stanley Cup final between the Hawks and Tampa Bay Lightning will be played on televisions throughout U.S. Cellular Field.
Every other TV, you get a chance to get a 2-for-1. You can watch the game on the field and watch the game on television. That was the Ephus pitch.
He sort of gave that one away. You can see that coming from up here.
You can see it coming, but it's like slow pitch softball. If it was in the zone, it'd been tough to hit.
Slow pitch softball. Wow. It struck out almost every time.
They had those guys, the guys who really can hit it forever. They had them in Houston, and they were hitting them over the train. You know where the train is in left field. I mean, these guys were getting up there and killing the ball.
Well, they were, when we had them here, they were going up in the fundamentals.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Popped up left side. Iglesias. So that is a 1-2-3 inning, and we're into the 7th. We're into the 7th. It'll be McCann, Iglesias, and back to the top of the order with Anthony Gose.
One of the things McCann is able to do, which for a catcher is pretty good, he's able to bunt. If he takes a look at third, you'll notice Gillespie is still in back of the bag.
Can't get it. Just turning in. We led it 4-1 after 2 innings. And they scored 1 in the 4th to make it 4-2. And then 3 last inning.
Tigers are going to get a lift as Justin Verlander is going to rejoin the club this coming week. At his last rehab start at AAA. Threw the ball well enough, and if he reports no problems at all, he will be back to give him a shot in the arm. And this pitching staff is right in the middle of the pack in the American League. But when you're adding a number 1 or 2 starter, depending on how you value David Price, and if you watched him yesterday, you value him very high. That's a lift.
And that ball knuckling out there. And that's out number 1.
Join White Sox Charities in celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the 2005 World Series by signing up for a championship giving campaign. Support the campaign by making a donation at special levels honoring the 2005 season. Donors will receive a commemorative gift for their donation. For more information, visit whitesox.com/championshipgiving.
Breaking ball strike to Iglesias, who did not appreciate the call, but it had part of the corner.
This Tiger defense, second in the league.
Watch out. Oh, and he caught it. Bounced out of his glove, and he was able to stay with it and make the play.
And Iglesias just looking out at Garcia because he was playing very shallow. As you figure he would, then he went up Ball hit the glove, kept his concentration, and took a 2-base hit away from Iglesias.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3 with 1 out.
Just barely able to concentrate and then run it down.
Gosa struck out, grounded to Alexei, and lined out hard to Melky. Five, 8-1 for them. 4, 5-0 for us. That's into short center field, and he got it. So a nice play by Javi. 7th inning stretch. We need 1 to tie.
We head into the bottom of the 7th inning. Alfredo Simon still on the mound. It'll be the bottom part of the order. Soto, Sanchez, and then we swing to the top with Adam Eaton. Eaton with a triple and a double today. He's driven in 1. He had a leadoff double in the 5th inning. It went for naught. It's a 5-4 game. Tigers have out hit the Sox 8-5. Tigers have made the only error of the game as Simon continues. And there is southpaw. And indeed, it would be a nice inning to start to peck away at Simon. I don't think that he's going to be allowed to spend a great deal of time out there if he has some difficulties. We've seen the bullpen up once. Simon in 10 starts has averaged over 6 innings per start, and in this day and age, that's actually pretty good. And here he is through 6, heading into his 7th. He has given up 5 home runs this year, but it's been in 70 innings of work, and that's not all that bad.
All right, boys, time for some runs. Soto, Sanchez, and Eaton. Let's get some base runners.
Just missed getting one there.
Well, 93. That's close. Taking one for the club. 103, no way.
If you can take it off that pad on the elbow, it's not a bad thing.
That's got to be an art.
Yeah, guys start to turn away, it appears they're turning back into the catcher to get away from it, when actually the elbow is actually getting closer to the plate. You take one off the elbow, you go to first, and it is an art.
Wish they had those things when I was playing.
Saved a lot of elbows, saved a lot of wrists.
2-1 to count. That'll get your wrist right there, too. Two balls, two strikes. That wrist is bothering him. Yep. Got him on that previous swing.
Put that one in the outside corner. Threw it by him. And there you see the hand come off the bat. When the hand comes off the bat, he shakes his left wrist. Is that usually a ligament in the hand? In the wrist?
Right in the side. Yep. Feels like somebody is sticking an ice pick in there. There's a strike. Carlos is 0 for 1. He walked back in the second and scored on that triple by Adam Eaton. That's up high. He's on top 1-2.
Pretty nice cutter on the inside part of the plate is Adam Eaton, waiting patiently.
Alfredo was retired the last 7 he's seen. Even when he was giving up those runs, gave up 3 runs in the first inning on that home run. Those were unearned runs. He's had good mound presence out there. He's not lost his composure. And we caught a big break in case you're just tuning in, because they were holding Abreu on with 2 out, nobody on, which he's not going to be running, and the ball hit off the heel of, was hit pretty hard by LaRoche, hit off the heel of Cabrera's glove. He's playing back. We don't score in that inning. Two down. 6 strikeouts now.
The RBI triple in the second inning, which was the 4th run of the ball game. Sliced down the line. Good effort by Collins, but he can't get to it. And Adam runs it into 3. That's the Xfinity Speed Replay. The Speed Replay is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Takes ball 1. Outfield well around to the left. Tyler Collins almost on that line. Looks like somebody's playing Luis Polonia at the plate.
Well, he got burned. He wasn't playing close enough to that line. That's not going to happen again. They really swung around. Huge gap in right center field and down the line in right if he can get out ahead of one.
Checks it up.
Well, Texas will not get shut out today. And of course, we become big Rangers fans when they're playing Kansas City. They have tied them up at 3-3 heading into the bottom of the 7th in Kansas City. We're trailing that game 3-0.
And that's without Beltre.
Without Beltre and the defense he gives him.
He's been with one of the best players in the game. There's a strike. 2 out, 2-2.
They're going to be without Beltre for about a month. He not only dislocated his thumb, but he lacerated it, took stitches to close it up. He actually popped his thumb back in himself, which is a good trick. But still going to be a while.
And Simon strikes out the side. We go to the 8th. It is 5-4 bad guys.
It was 7 innings. He's been pretty impressive. And Avi Garcia with a 3-run homer coming in the first inning. The door was opened by an error off the glove of Cabrera. And that's where we stand. It's brought to you by the Honda Dream Garage Sales Event, now at your Honda dealer.
There's a base hit by Kinsler. That's going to go for 2. And he's there. Oh, the leadoff double.
Well, at first, Kinsler wasn't turning it on, thinking that he would be coasting into second base rather easily. He might have forgotten about the strength of the arm of Garcia, who got to the ball quickly and got it back in to actually make it a whole lot closer than Ian thought it was. So he hits that ball, taking for granted it's going to be a double. Bobby does a nice job of getting to it. By the time he plants, he gets it there. Kinsler's in.
And Cabrera, knowing what to do, tries to do it, and it's just foul. He's 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored.
This is his first at bat with a runner in scoring position.
Well, there's a pretty good chance he's going to get him over to third or get him in, one of the two.
Blaine Hardy loosening up in the pen.
Now just looks to third, goes to first.
It's conceivable had he had a better angle on that, he might have thought about going to third base, but when he picked it up All he saw was the back of Kinsler. Maybe you could throw it over his shoulder, but then again, you're opening up the door to a huge inning. He thought about it and then thought better of it.
Well, the angle is what got him. So now the infield in. But also that's a good base running play by Kinsler, who's a good player. And it's by Gillespie, and it's a 6-4 game.
'30th run batted in by Cespedes, who hit a solo home run in the 6th inning. He's 3 for 4 today, and here comes Robin. That would appear to be it for Jeff Samardzija as he throws one down in the zone. He knows you got to keep it down in a situation with the infield in, so he gets a ground ball. Unfortunately, too much on it as he drills it through the left side. So Jeff will depart, and as he walks out, we'll step out and be back after these messages. For the 24th time, he inherits Cespedes at first base. It's a 2-run deficit. As you look at the numbers, he's been pretty good lately. And he's going to take a look at Rajai Davis. Davis going to pinch hit for Collins. All Collins did today was score 2 runs, go 3 for 3 with a triple and a run batted in.
Yeah, he went 3 for 3, and I say one thing, that is very fortuitous. 3 for 3. But here's a guy who has absolutely just blistered us in his career, Rajai Davis.
1 for 9 as a pinch hitter. He's got great speed. So you really can't afford to play him all that deep in the infield, because on a chopper it's going to be tough to get him out.
There's a strike. And the count 0-2.
Jake Petrichka loosening up in the pen.
Now feels straight up about equidistant, maybe a slight Slight gap out there in right center. Long look down at Dave Clark, third base coach by Davis. And the 0-2 to look. All right, take it yourself. Or they get him. Third double play turn, and a good job by Zach Duke. But they pick up one, and they lead it by 2.
And the heart of the order due up as Simon stays in the ball game, but there's activity in the Tiger pen in case Simon has any problems. He didn't look like he was tiring as he struck out the side in the 7th.
Well, he's retired the last 9 he's seen. With 5 of those being strikeouts. So here's Cabrera. Abreu on deck. And Avi in the check that LaRoche in the hole. First pitch strike to Melky. Melky 0 for 3 today. One very hard line drive to center and a couple of pop-ups to short. Gap in right center. They lead us 6-4.
Hardy was loosening up, and he's joined by the right-hander Jabba Chamberlain.
Another pop-up. Castellanos.
Stop by Shy Sox Bar and Grill at U.S. Cellular Field. Shy Sox Bar and Grill offers a full menu from Gibson's Restaurant Group. Features 70 flat-screen HD TVs and is open 4 hours prior to all home games. Shy Sox Bar and Grill is located at the Gate 5 Plaza.
Here's Abreu. Solid single to center. A liner to third and a strikeout. Good pitch. In on the fist.
If you go inside on the first pitch, you want to make sure you go inside off the plate. And if a hitter decides he's going to swing, there's nothing he can do with it. And that's exactly what Simon did. That ball was a good 4 inches off the inside corner.
Well, the worst feeling a hitter can have is to be in between. There's another good pitch, hit him on the fist. And 2 out. But the worst feeling is being in between. The second worst feeling is going to plate and you know you got to look inside. Conversely, the best feeling is when you go to the plate, you don't have to worry about anything inside. You can look for the ball out there. That's when you are your best. And what you have to try to do is try to find a way to get in that approach, in that frame of mind, that sense of control.
Well, with Simon, because he throws splitters and a lot of sliders, he's got to throw that fastball inside to right-handers. Otherwise, they're looking away the entire bat.
Well, what we're seeing with Simon today is just a lot of experience out there. A lot of experience, and that is 12 in a row retired by that big right-hander.
For the 9th inning. First things first, you got to hold them down, then you got to worry about that 2-run deficit. And Jay comes into this one. He's on for the 22nd time. His ERA and even 4. Giving up 24 hits in 18 innings. And he's got to face a guy who's really hit the ball well this afternoon, J.D. Martinez.
Every time he's been to the plate, he has absolutely barreled it up. First time a line shot right to Alexei. Next time the line shot almost took Jeff off the mound with an RBI single. Then he had a 2-run homer right over the center field fence. Has high right side Avi.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years. Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. There's real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details.
Here's Nick Castellanos, 0 for 3. And make your plans to be with us tomorrow night. First of a 3-game set with these Houston Astros. Chris Sale on the bump for us. Lance McCullers for them. If you can't make it, that game will be over Comcast Sportsnet. And as I mentioned, they're going to be showing the Blackhawks game on television throughout the ballpark.
Last time out, Chris Sale was unbelievable. In fact, the last 2 times out. And last time out, Lance McCullers threw the ball unbelievably well. Now, we saw him in Houston. He wasn't near as good as he was last time out, but he's 21 years old, might have as good a stuff as anybody in their organization. His father, a major league pitcher, so Junior is a very impressive 21-year-old.
Well, I saw the game last time out with Chris, and I mean, I was watching that game and I was flinching at home. That slider he had was just, forget about it.
Last 2 times out, his slider is back, and when the slider is good, it's not a real good day for the hitters.
First pitch strike to McCann, who's 0 for 3. So a Sale against McCullers tomorrow. Then on Tuesday, a couple of left-handers out there. Carlos Rodon against Dallas Keuchel. Keuchel, soft tossing left-hander. All he is 7-1 with a 1.85 ERA.
He set his career high in strikeouts in Houston in a game he pitched head-to-head with Jose Quintana.
Alexi got to barehand it and make the play. What a play by Alexi. Yes, he gets him. Meanwhile, we'll go to the bottom of the ninth. Garcia, Ramirez, Gillespie. We need 2 to tie.
Checking an official White Sox debit card. Only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC. So Joakim Soria comes in. 15 out of 17. And in the opening game of this series on Friday night, he gave up the solo home run to Adam LaRoche. That accounts for one of the 2 blown saves. So Romine has taken over at third base defensively. And Soria, who's a very good pitcher with a good slow curveball, tries to nail it down.
Well, we just saw a very good pitcher for 8 innings out there, and Alfredo Simon. He had good stuff. He did not lose his composure after giving up 3 unearned runs in the first inning. And he just retired the last 12 he saw. Darryl Boston almost got dehorned. Two and 1 to count. You're just joining us. They scored 1 in the first. We scored 3. 3-run homer by Avi. I towering drive over the left center field fence. Oh, he got a cookie right there and missed it. We had 1 in the second. They scored 1 in the fourth. Then they picked up 3 in the sixth. And then a run in the eighth. $29,059 in the house. Right side, Kensler sucks it up. One out, and here is Alexei.
Kinsler's only made 3 errors all year, and last year a +20 in runs saved. He penciled out to one of the best second basemen in all of baseball, and at the top of a lot of people's charts.
He's a heck of a player, and he is a guy who's not afraid to knock in a big run in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. He's done that many times in his career. 0-1 to count to Alexei. 3 for 13 lifetime off Soria. Gillespie on deck. That's high. Souvenir time.
It would have been, but it bounced out, and Jeff Nelson flipped it to the cameraman.
The Cameron will get a souvenir.
He's got one. He likes those kind instead of those shots that come slicing down there. Low first. Wow. Low first, low third. They get to dodge some rockets.
And they don't have the opportunity to get out of the way sometimes. There's a good way. 1 out single. Brings the tying run to the plate. Come on, Connor. One time, buddy.
That fastball was up and right down the middle. McCann wanted it upstairs. Actually hits the ball well upstairs.
He's the best right-handed fastball hitter we have.
Soria has given up 3 home runs this year, including the dramatic 9th inning shot to Adam LaRoche.
Gillespie is grounded softly to first, softly to second, and fouled out to Iglesias. Takes ball 1.
When the Tigers acquired Soria last year at the trading deadline, they got him as a setup man for Joe Nathan and an insurance policy. Last year wasn't a great year for him, but as an insurance policy this year, when Nathan went down, he's been invaluable.
Attaboy. Connor, 2-0.
J.B. Shuck in the on-deck circle. So he'll come on to pinch hit.
Let's give him a finish. High in the center field. He just missed that one. 2 out, and here comes J.B. Gordon Beckham has come out on deck if Shuck can reach. Takes that pitch, going inside, ball 1. Big pitch always in this circumstance, in this situation. Dial it up a little bit more now for the fastball. As Alexei, that's indifference. That's not a stolen base. But it takes one option away from him.
And with the speed of Shuck, it could very well be that a chopper in the infield, their option would have been a force at second.
Big pitch. And it goes to Sawyer. He grabbed part of that corner. So we're down to our last bullet. 2 out, 1 and 2 the count, trailing 6-4.
This one catches the outside part of the outside corner.
There's a shot right to Cabrera, who was guarding the line, and this ball game is over. So we had a 4-1 lead. Couldn't do anything the rest of the way. We lose at 6-4, and we'll be back.